Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Y'all, it's only like September 2nd and the weather out here feels amazing. We're probably in the 70s at this moment, so we have got a hike planned for later today. But one thing I always think about when summer starts to cool down and cooler weather comes in is rabbit breeding. So that means it's about rabbit breeding season, friends. Now, what I personally look for in the South, we live in South Carolina, southeastern United States, very hot, very humid, is temperatures. We want our temperatures to be less than 85 degrees for at least, the 10-day forecast. Less than 60 at night, less than 85 in the day. Those are my parameters to kind of signal it's breeding time. The reason for that is breeding in hot temperatures can cause heat stroke in rabbits, and that is not something we want to do. You don't want your animals pregnant during the heat and humid of summer because it's harder on their bodies. But one thing you should do when you're getting ready to breed those rabbits is to do health checks on all of your rabbits. You don't want to pass on any kind of contagious diseases from one rabbit to another. You don't want to breed sick rabbits because the act of being pregnant and then having kids can really send them downhill. Like, you just want to have healthy stock. You want to breed healthy stock, so you make healthy stock, so you raise healthy stock, all of the above. So getting started on our rabbit breeding season is a perfect time to get in a good health check to make sure everything is going according to plan. And of course, things don't always go according to plan, but I've got you today, friends. So what I've put together is, sorry if you hear the cicadas in the background. It is the sound of summer. What I put together for you is a video that shows all of the common rabbit illnesses, what to look out for, is it contagious or not contagious, and how to treat it. Now, in my books, Feed and Meat Rabbits for Free, there's a section in the back that's like how to treat issues or care for rabbits, health maintenance using food, so different herbs and things like that. I will be pulling some information from that, but that resource really goes more in depth onto all the different things you can feed to help keep your rabbits healthy or to fight off an illness. And there's no way I could include all that in this video. In my book, The Homesteader's Guide to Raising Rabbits, there should also be a chapter in there that kind of goes over different issues, common illnesses in rabbits, and how to take care of that. But I know not everybody has those books or can afford to buy those books. I did make notes for this video so I don't forget anything. So the first one that I want to go over is probably one of the most common, and it's something we're actually battling this year, but I think our rabbit looks much better. I have an entire video on this, so I'm just going to link that down below and give you the quick overview of that, and it is ear mite. Any animal can get ear mites. Rabbits are very prone to them because they've got big old ears, and it's a perfect place for ear mites to hang out. So what you're going to look for in your rabbit is you will start to notice maybe they're scratching at those ears more. You may even see some blood on their ears or from behind their neck from where they're scratching at those ears. And if you look inside the ears, it may be brown and gunky, or if it's progressed past that, it can be super crusted over. We got one rabbit from auction one year. If you watch that video on ear mites, you'll see it. His entire ears was nothing but one big old crusted up gross looking wound, and all it was ear mites. I paid I think $10 for that rabbit. Its only health issue was ear mites. It went on to breed for us for 2 years, so I definitely got my money's worth. He was a fantastic breeder, did great, so don't be scared of auction rabbits, y'all. Now, ear mites is contagious, so if you see any signs of ear mites in your rabbit, go ahead and treat any rabbit in your rabbitry at all, because it's so easy to treat. You might as well just go ahead and do everybody. If it's a new rabbit you're bringing in, like the one we brought in from auction that had ear mites, you should be quarantining those rabbits, and you can treat just that rabbit if it's in the quarantine process. But just know they're highly contagious, so if you're going from that rabbit to your healthy rabbits, you can pass those ear mites along. So keep an eye on your other rabbits' ears and see what they got going on. We always do quick checks on our rabbits' ears, once a month or so, just to see. Because it is so contagious, there's nothing you can do to prevent them from getting them. It doesn't matter how you raise your rabbits. You can cage raise them on the ground, raise them in rabbit tractors. You can have the best biosecurity out of any rabbitry, and at some point you may still encounter ear mites. Just know There ain't nothing you can do to prevent it, ain't nothing you can do to stop it from coming in, but you can treat it. And all you have to do to treat ear mites is take some oil and rub it in their ears. We like to use olive oil just because it's super quick and easy. You can use something like lard or tallow, and all you do is just put the oil in there and you rub those ears. And so you want to do that about every other day for a week if it's not a super severe case, and that usually clears it right on up, takes care of it. Once you see no more crusties in that ear, I do it for a day or two longer just to make sure I got all of those mites suffocated, and then you're done. No big deal. Next one is probably one I get the most frantic messages about, and that is when you have a down rabbit but you don't know the cause. And so this is like, you go out to your pen, your rabbit's still breathing, but it's like lethargic. So it's just laying there. It's not moving a whole lot. It's not doing very much. You can tell it's alive and it's with it, but it is just not getting up. It's not eating. It's not drinking. It's not doing anything. Now this rabbit could be contagious. You don't know what's causing it, so always treat it as a contagious rabbit. Go ahead and pull it out, separate it by itself, and then you want to give it fluids. That's gonna be the first thing you need to get into it, is some kind of fluids. And I've kind of adjusted this throughout the years depending on what I see going on with the rabbit and what I suspect. But in general, a cup of warm water, a tablespoon of like blackstripe molasses. I've used honey in a pinch. If I don't have any molasses, a pinch of salt, a pinch of baking soda. It's kind of like Gatorade or Pedialyte or whatever for rabbit. So that gives them warm fluids, because obviously they're dehydrated or something's going on. Maybe they've got GI issues and it's not moving through, and you've got to get some kind of liquid into them. The blackstripe molasses is full of nutrients. It's got all kinds of vitamins in it, plus it's got sugar, and sometimes that little quick hit of glucose will get them up enough to get them eating. Salt, that helps their body retain that fluid and rehydrate those cells. Especially if you're feeding a whole foods diet, they may be missing out on some salt, some sodium in that diet. So go ahead and give a pinch of salt to kind of boost it up. If they don't need the salt, their kidneys are going to filter it out, and you're only giving it itty bitty about. And then baking soda. So if they've got any kind of bloat or something going on, that will help with that very acidic GI system and kind of help calm that down enough and maybe get them feeling better, just enough to get them up and eating and drinking. Now, I ain't gonna lie, sometimes this is a last-ditch effort, but at least you can say you've tried. So what we do is I mix all this together, keep it nice and warm, about body temperature, like you can stick your finger in it and it feels warm but not hot. And then I will usually do a syringe and try to syringe feed a few mLs. You just want to do a few drops on the tongue, let them swallow it. You're not trying to like drown them in it, because rabbits can't vomit, and if they get too much in there, they can't get it back up. They physically cannot vomit, and so that's just not what you want to do. If your rabbit is well enough to drink this out of a bowl, beautiful, that is a good rabbit. If they're not, syringe feeding an ml to 2 mLs every few hours can help that rabbit start feeling better. I usually do about an ml, and next hour do an ml, next hour do an ml, and just try that till I get that whole cup gone through. If I feel like I can increase that and do 2 mLs, I'll do that. If they took a whole lot or they got up drinking, maybe I'll wait a few hours. You know, you just kind of got to play it by ear and just see how your rabbit's doing in that condition. But that's just a general like rabbit electrolyte mixture. A cup of warm water, a tablespoon of blackstripe molasses, honey if you absolutely need to because you don't have any molasses on hand and can't get any, a pinch of salt and a pinch of baking soda. So it's worth a shot. So while we're going through GI systems, I want you to always think of one thing. If you suspect a GI issue with your rabbits, no matter what you think is going on, the first things I want you to do is to take out any rabbit pellets, any oats, sunflower seeds, any treats you've given them. I know there are people out there, I seen it this morning on a Facebook group, that's like, my rabbits got GI issues, they're not, doing so hot, and you're like, what are they feeding them? When they say carrots and apples. Y'all, if that is you, all I'm going to say is please remove those, because that's going to be one of your main culprits. Okay, so if you see GI issues, gastrointestinal issues, stomach issues in your rabbits, regardless, across the board, remove everything out except for hay. Dry hay is the easiest on a rabbit's tummy. So dry hay and fresh water. Those are the only things I want you to have in that cage. So any stomach issues, that's your first thing you do, okay? Take everything else out, hay and water only. Now we're going to go into some more detailed things. If you kind of know what the GI issue is, if you don't, there you go. Hay and water. We call it the hay diet. Works for fat rabbits, works for a sick rabbit. Hay and water, at least for a few days, up to a week to 2 weeks, because that will just help kind of get your rabbit through. It's kind of like the bland diet that we do for kids with upset stomachs. So just bland foods just to help reset that GI system. So GI stasis, if you suspect that, that's because your rabbit's not pooping. They're not eating. They may just be laying around. It's not contagious. It's usually caused by something that the rabbit did or ate that upset their stomach, and so they just stop eating. Or if your rabbit just doesn't feel good and stops eating. So what you do is your goal is to get that belly moving again. So remember, hay and water. Massage that belly. You may feel like pebbles in there. That's that dried up poop, and you got to help get that through. So massage the belly gently. We're just rubbing it gently, and that can kind of help get things moving along, break up any kind of, big, large stools that's kind of really blocking things up. And then you really, really want to get them eating. So you've pulled all the other things away, and my go-to is dandelion flowers, chamomile flowers, leaves from like a blackberry bush or a raspberry bush. So if you can get them to start getting some of that in, then they can get things moving along. Next, and probably the most common GI issue in rabbits, especially baby rabbits, is bloating. So if you've given a rabbit something they shouldn't have, or maybe they ate too much pellets or something like that, number one sign is they're going to bloat. So signs and symptoms of bloating: you've got that hard belly. It may be taut like a drum, kind of feels a little hollow. They could be showing symptoms of pain. So when a rabbit's in pain, they will kind of be all hunched over, sitting there. Their eyes are real squinty. Their ears are usually laid flat back on their heads, and they just kind of sit there and they don't move. If they're grinding their teeth, they're really in pain, guys. Any animal that's grinding their teeth, that is a big symptom of pain. And bloating hurts. Bloating is not contagious. It's something that rabbit did that upset its GI system, and it is producing gases since its intestinal contents isn't really digesting well. So you just need to get that taken care of. So the gas drop, hay, water, massaging can help kind of break up that bloating, help move things through. And then if you've tried all those things and it's not really helping, believe it or not, cilantro, if you have fresh cilantro, that can help kind of deal with that bloating. Lemon balm can help if you've got that growing. That helps calm the rabbit down, helps them feel a little bit more at ease, and can help get things broken down that gas wise and moving on through. So those are two little food things you can try after you've done everything else. Now, every breeding season, I have questions about this next one, and that is weaning enteritis. It's one that people often notice because they'll see balls of mucus in their rabbits' cages. The rabbit may have diarrhea going on. Mucousy stools is a sign of weaning enteritis. If you see mucus, what that is your rabbit's digestive system is moving things through so fast that the mucus that lines that digestive system is coming out with it. And that's because it's not absorbing any nutrients. Nothing is getting processed because it's all so upset and inflamed that it doesn't have time to really digest. It's just trying to get all that bad stuff out. Usually this happens if rabbits are weaned very suddenly from mom. This is why we don't sell any kits till they're over 8 weeks old. Less than 8 weeks old, you're more likely to experience weaning enteritis. Usually it happens between 6 and 8 weeks. And then if you are not feeding your kits the same food you were feeding mom, so if you're all of a sudden changing their diets, that's when you're going to end up with weaning enteritis. Weaning enteritis can also occur when you buy a new rabbit if you're just all of a sudden transitioning their food. It is called weaning enteritis because we see it more often in younger kids, but it can happen in any rabbit that's all of a sudden got a change in food. And a lot of kits die from weaning enteritis. 6 to 8 week old kits, this is generally the primary killer of those kits. So in breeding season, you always want to be a good steward of checking your rabbit's poop and making sure you're not seeing any mucousy poops in with your kits, because then you've got an issue. Weaning Enteritis, it's not contagious because it's all about that rabbit's digestive system, but just know if you have an entire litter of rabbits that is eating the same thing and one's got Weaning Enteritis, they may all develop it because obviously there was some kind of big change there that upset that rabbit. So again, pull all treats, pull all pellets. Anything you were giving that rabbit that was upsetting it, pull every bit of it. If you've tried a new hay and that rabbit's having issues, pull that out. Give fresh, reliable hay. It could have been something that was sprayed on that hay or something that killed off all that bacteria in that intestine, and that's not good. So pull everything that rabbit's been eating out and give a fresh hay. Kind of help that rabbit through. Moldy hay can cause this also, so don't give anything moldy or gross to your rabbits, okay? Just hope for the best. Next is coccidiosis, and y'all, this one is the one I hear the most about people and why they don't want to raise their rabbits on the ground. But I'm just gonna go ahead and let you know, your rabbits can get coccidiosis from hay, from any kind of fresh foods, from the ground, from you interacting with other rabbits and bringing it to them. This is one reason we don't allow other rabbit breeders onto our property, because we don't want them to bring coccidiosis with them. Now the thing about coccidiosis is it's species specific, so your rabbit cannot get it from your chickens cannot get it from your rabbit, they can't get it from your goats or anything like that. It is rabbit coccidiosis is one type, chicken coccidiosis is another type, okay? So people who have rabbits and with chickens, that's not how they get coccidiosis. If you keep your rabbits in a cage and you don't feed them any hay and you don't feed them any fresh food, and all you give them is pellets, and that is it. And I'm sorry, y'all, my face says too much about how I think about that diet. I just think rabbits need hay in their diet, but some people don't, and that's okay. I'm not judging you. It just goes against my beliefs. But if you feed them only pellets and you are very good about cleaning your hands and your boots and you don't let people over and they're in the cage, they're off the ground, yeah, you have decreased chances of getting coccidiosis as long as you don't take your rabbits anywhere. You don't take them to shows, you don't take them to anything where they're going to be exposed, and you don't go around any other rabbits. You may never ever experience coccidiosis, but y'all, we do bring in new rabbits sometimes. I will bring friends' rabbits over and breed them to my rabbits if they need, like if they don't have a buck, I will do that. And I do take them to shows sometimes if I am doing a demonstration nearby and I need to have a rabbit to demonstrate on. I'll take mine because they're used to me, and so I'm not stressing them out as much. And we rarely have an issue with coccidiosis. But once you get it on your property, it can be very, very hard to deal with. But knowing you have an issue with it can help you prevent coccidiosis by regularly feeding things that fight it off, okay? So coccidiosis is just an intestinal parasite, kind of like a little worm. You got intestinal coccidiosis, you've got hepatic coccidiosis. Hepatic coccidiosis infects the liver, intestinal infects the intestine. Now, hepatic coccidiosis you'll notice when you butcher rabbits, and then it's got like white globules all in the liver. It looks very raised and bumpy, things like that. That's a good sign that you've got hepatic coccidiosis. Intestinal coccidiosis is kind of harder to diagnose, but you'll usually kind of suspect you've got it if your rabbits are looking more lethargic, they're dropping weight even though they're still eating good, things like that. That's letting you know that a parasite's using up those nutrients, and so you just go ahead and worm them. Now, we don't use chemical dewormers on our rabbit. We just don't. So, if you suspect your rabbit has coccidiosis, first thing you want to do is not let them near other rabbits because it is contagious, and then you want to start treating that rabbit. So up their nutrition because you're wanting to feed your rabbit, and the parasites is going to be stealing some of that. So up the amount of food you're giving them. If you're feeding pellets, increase your pellets. If you're feeding whole foods, increase your whole foods. Make sure hay is always available. You want that rabbit taking in as many nutrients as it can while it's fighting off this coccidiosis, okay? You can add apple cider vinegar to the water. That kind of increases their body's ability to digest a lot of these things, increases their nutrients, and kind of helps with the deworming process. And then feed them foods that are naturally known to deworm rabbits. Or I guess deworm anything. Oregano is like one of my first go-tos, and I just use dried oregano. Go to your grocery store, get a big thing of it, works great. And when I feed my rabbits, if I feed them like oats and sunflower seeds, alfalfa pellets, whatever I'm giving them, I dump the oregano on top, just make sure it's thickly covered. I don't measure, I don't know, maybe 2 tablespoons. Pumpkin seeds are full of nutrition, good, healthy fats, and they deworm your rabbit. So if you're buying them from somewhere, you want unsalted, preferably unroasted pumpkin seeds, as raw as you can get them. If it's in the fall and you can get the pumpkin seeds out of a fresh pumpkin, it's the best place to get them. What we love to do is every fall is I put a notice up on Facebook. Hey, when you're done with your pumpkins or you're carving them, you got them for fall decorations, you're done with that, I would take any seeds. If you haven't carved your pumpkins and you just use them for fall decorations, any pumpkin, let me know. I will come pick them up when you're done with your decorations. If you have carved them, when you're carving them and you're scooping all that stuff out and throwing it in a trash bag, just let me know. I will come get it and take it off your hands. Do not throw it away. So I will wash and clean that and dry them just out in the sun, let them get nice and dry, and store them for year-round use. I mean, you want to feed about a tablespoon a day. Just feed them and let them eat them, and they will eat them as they need them. And if they don't need a whole lot, then they won't eat them. But they're good, healthy fats. You can feed these monthly like we do if you want to help kind of prevent that coccidiosis if you know it's an issue for you. You can even feed up to, like, if you're mixing seeds and food together, like some kind of pellets, alfalfa pellets, whole oats, things like that. You can do up to 1/4 of a cup if you're really concerned that your rabbit has coccidiosis, as a good jump start to deworming. Other things that work great for coccidiosis are muscadine leaves. We have muscadines that grow all over our property. If you have grape or wild grape, those are the same family. It works great. And that's because the tannins in them are so high, and high tannins will help fight off that coccidiosis. Or green pine. Now, if you have my Feed and Meat Rabbits for Free book, you will see green pine listed as a low toxicity, and that's because too much of it will make your rabbit sick. But in this instance, the green pine is working as a dewormer. So when we've got green pine growing, especially in the spring, if we cut down a pine tree or anything like that, I will go ahead and give each of my animals good amounts of green pine just as a quick deworming, and it will help flush out any kind of coccidiosis that we may be experiencing. The key with coccidiosis is more about prevention. By repetitively giving things that treat coccidiosis throughout the year and not waiting till we have a problem, that really helps keep our rabbits on a good, even keel. So pumpkin seeds, muscadine leaves, green pine regularly throughout the year. Throw in some oregano on some food maybe once a month. When they get really sick, if we have that, then we just up those amounts. Now, some people say that if you're going to do a good deworming, like if you want to give the green pine or the pumpkin seeds or the muscadine leaves like once a month, people say do that with the full moon, because something about the full moon activity impacts parasites and makes them more active, and so you really get a bigger bang for your buck at that point if you want to do that. We just do it whenever I think about it, because I don't always know what the moon cycles are, and full moons as a labor and delivery nurse tend to be pretty crazy. It just impacts women that same way. So I get busier at work during the full moon. So I just do the treatment whenever I think about it, to be honest. Now, this next one, heat stroke, is what we're going to talk about. This is the reason I said we don't breed our rabbits when it's above 85 degrees, because they're more prone to heat stroke. Heat stroke can happen at any time, especially during the summer. Rabbits don't like the heat. They do much better in cool weathers. And because we live in a very hot, humid climate in the southeast, heat stroke is always something on my radar. So the first thing you want to do is identify heat stroke. If you see your rabbit panting, they are too hot. Rabbits don't generally pant. It's not really how they cool themselves. So if you have a rabbit that's over there going, they're way too hot. They're increased respirations. They're breathing super fast. That's their body trying to cool themselves down. If you've got a white rabbit, like a white New Zealand, sometimes their ears will get really red. That's because rabbits cool themselves through their ears. So being in the southeast, we breed rabbits who have bigger ears. So if I'm judging between two breeder rabbits, they both look great, but one has longer ears, I'm going to go with the longer ears, because bigger ears, especially stand-up ears, will cool that rabbit down faster. So rabbits shunt blood flow to their ears, and as their ears are exposed to that wind and stuff, it's cooling those ears down, which is cooling that blood down, and it's flowing through their body. So as they get super hot, they shut more blood flow to their ears, and that makes their ears look red. These rabbits can also kind of just lay there. They don't want to do a whole lot because it's too hot to move, so they may look lethargic. They just may be panting, just laying there somewhere panting. Okay, so this is not contagious, but the first thing you want to do is move your rabbit to the shade, get some air on them, airflow, you know, kind of blow wind over their ears like this, like if they're near you. Give them fresh, cool water to drink, not ice cold. Cool water, you don't want to shock their systems. And then you can even take that cool water, rub it on their ears, rub it on their paws, because I say paws. Rabbits don't actually have paws, they have feet, but their bodies will use those extremities to help cool their body down. Another thing we may encounter in the summer is called Flystrike. Y'all, if you see any animal with Flystrike, any animal can get it. It's bad. It's bad. So you may not even know that your rabbit has a wound before the maggots appear. So flies find that wound and then they lay their eggs in that wound, and now you've got maggots, and maggots are eating that wound tissue as it's dying off, and so they are continuously eating it, and they basically suck your animal dry. Like they can take down an animal in 24 hours with Flystrike. So if you see your animal has maggots on it, that is an emergency situation. Do not do anything else until you take care of that animal, because they will die, and they will die very quickly from Flystrike. Now this isn't contagious because it's caused by that rabbit having a wound and those flies finding that wound. So the first thing you want to do is clean all those maggots off. You want to clean that wound very, very well. Flush it really well with water, clean everything out of it. Get it just absolutely as clean as possible. Then coat it in like iodine or something. Generally on other animals we use blue coat, but blue coat's not really safe for rabbits because they lick their everything. That's how they clean themselves, and you don't want them ingesting that blue coat. But iodine is safe, and so coating it in iodine. If it's a bad wound, you can coat it in some kind of honey. Manuka honey is the best for healing, but any kind of honey will work. Just a thin layer to keep the flies from being able to get to that wound and help heal that wound. If it's bad, try dressing it, but your rabbit's going to chew through that dressing. This is a rabbit that I would quarantine into an area, maybe cover with some kind of screen so the flies can't get to that wound anymore, and just really baby that rabbit. All you can do is do supportive care to heal that rabbit and then heal the wound. That's literally all you can do to combat Flystrike. But again, it is an emergency in rabbits. It's an emergency in any animal because within 24 hours that animal could be dead from Flystrike. So the next issue you may experience, especially in breeding season, is called Pyometra, and this is actually an infection of the rabbit's uterus. So this happens with female rabbits. It is not contagious. It's usually like something from birth. If the rabbit just recently gave birth, some kind of bacteria got up in there, maybe part of the placentas or something didn't come loose. Dead rabbit baby that didn't get passed could be in there. I'm sorry, that sounds awful. Or just some kind of bacteria during that process got up into that uterus and it set up a major infection. You may never know that your rabbit had pyometra until it dies and you do a necropsy and open that rabbit up and see a pus-filled uterus. For some reason you are able to see it. Generally it is shown by a lethargic rabbit with pus coming out of its vaginal canal. It's white pus, any kind of bad, funky, smelly discharge, stuff like that is always a sign of pyometra. The problem with pyometra is the only way to cure it is to take that rabbit to the vet and have it spayed. Any animal that develops pyometra, this is the immediate solution, is to take that animal to the vet and have it spayed. Now, we raise meat rabbits, and the amount of money it would cost to have a vet spay a rabbit is not worth it for us. So on our homestead, that would be an automatic cull situation. So that rabbit's life would be ended. We don't eat rabbits with infections. Technically, the infection is contained within the uterus, so it should not be an infectious material towards the meat, but that's just our policy. We only want to put healthy things within our body. So we would not eat that animal, and we would not feed it to our dog or anything. It would be buried in the ground to decompose and to kind of feed the soil, because it's not wasted in that way. It's feeding the plant life around it. We're almost done, friends. I got two more I want to cover with you today. So the next one is sore hocks. Sore hocks is something that people want to blame on cages, cage raising rabbits a lot. And if you have it in your cages, it's generally either because your breed of rabbit is more prone to it. These are the heavier breeds like Flemish Giants, any kind of the giant breeds are more prone to it. any rabbits that don't have a lot of fur on their feet, because like I said earlier, rabbits don't have paws, so they don't have paw pads. They just have skin and fur, and that fur acts as a pad to keep their feet insulated. So if they don't have a lot of fur on their feet, they're more prone to it. Or if you're not using the appropriate cage floor wiring. So hardware cloth is a no on the bottom. You want 14 to 16 gauge wire on the bottom. We do 1/2 inch by 1 inch wiring, because that lets their feet rest comfortably, but also allows the poop to fall through. But hardware cloth is too thin. That wire is way too thin, and that will cut into their feet. You just need to make sure you use thick wire on the bottom of your cages to help prevent this. But you'll know it's sore hocks because you'll look at your rabbit's feet and it'll have sores on their feet. That's why it's called sore hocks. They develop sores on their feet. And so what you want to do is clean that. You can put Manuka honey on it, or some kind of honey if it's really, really bad, or just cleaning it and giving them a soft place to stand is a good option. Now, it's not contagious, but if one rabbit has it and you've got it in your breeding lines or your cages, like one of the issues that you've got going on that causes that rabbit to have it may be throughout your rabbitry, because it comes in that line of rabbits, that breed of rabbits, or you're not using proper flooring throughout your rabbitry. So you may see it in multiple rabbits, but that's not because it's contagious. That's just because you've got the same problem causing it. And unfortunately, the only solution to sore hocks is to solve the problem. So if you're using improper cage floor wiring, get better floor wiring. If it's your breed of rabbit, try to raise them on the ground or in rabbit tractors or something that gets them on a softer surface. You can add resting mats, soft little resting mats for the rabbits to stand on, or like a piece of wood for them to stand on to get their feet off of that cage. Just know if you add those things, then they may poop and pee on that, and then they may be sitting on that and develop something called urine scald, and that's where the urine sets against their fur and it basically eats that skin, and it leaves it bumpy and red, and just absolutely really damages that skin and can make all that fur fall off. So that's why we don't use any of that in our cages, but we don't have sore hocks. So just know that the only way to stop that is to figure out what's causing it and then fix that problem. The last condition is snuffles. This is one of the conditions that people are always scared of bringing into their rabbitry, and the reason for that is there is no cure for snuffles. Snuffles looks like a cold in rabbits, a head cold. They may be sneezing, they may have a runny nose, runny eyes. You may see wet paws, so anytime we go to buy new rabbits, we always look at their paws. If their paws are wet, that's because they're cleaning their nose with their paws. And we have had rabbits that have hay allergies, so they sneeze a lot, but they are not having runny nose and runny eyes and wet paws. So if you see that combination, that runny nose, runny eyes, wet paws, and sneezing, always think snuffles. And unfortunately, like I said, there's no cure for snuffles. All you can do is supportive care. Unfortunately, snuffles is very contagious. It's a bacteria, a Pasteurella bacteria that rabbits pass from each other. They can pass this from mom to kit when she has the babies. And even if you treat snuffles and you no longer see any signs of it, that rabbit is still infectious. It still carries that bacteria. And anytime that rabbit gets stressed or has some kind of big life change, they can show symptoms of snuffles, because they will always carry it. And they can always pass it on. They are always contagious for it. In our situation, snuffles would be an automatic cull situation, so we would get rid of that rabbit. Or if you want, you could find it a pet-only home, because rabbits can live with snuffles. They just don't need to be around other rabbits to do so. So the only things you can do for snuffles is supportive care. So feeding fresh basil can help that body fight that off. Echinacea is good to help rabbits fight off respiratory illnesses, so you can feed that. Lemon balm will help keep that rabbit calm, keep them eating, keep them fighting off diseases. Any kind of mint to open up those airways, kind of like when you smell something mentholated. Feeding mint can do the same thing for rabbit. And then basically just making sure that they eat and drink is really all you can do to help get them through that time period. And then once they're better, just remember they're still contagious. So you don't sell that rabbit to anybody else without making sure they are clearly aware that that rabbit has snuffles or may possibly have snuffles. You do not breed that because you don't want to pass it on. And you either decide to either make that rabbit a indoor pet away from all other rabbits, or you end its life and you cull that rabbit. Now, there are many other health conditions with rabbits that you may experience, and there's no way I could cover them all, but these are the most common that you can see and you can fix or cull, depending on the situation. And these are the ones that generally I get the most questions about online on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube comments, emails, things like that, or when I do events. That people tend to have the biggest issues with on their homesteads, in their rabbitries, things like that. And so I just wanted to get this video out there as a one-stop, hey, my rabbit's sick, let's watch this video, see which signs and symptoms match up and how we can treat that. So I hope all of y'all have a happy, healthy, productive breeding year on your rabbitries. I'm hoping we have the same and that y'all are having this beautiful weather as well. So that's all I got for you today, friends. So until next time, bye. I'll see you later.